Edwin, we mentioned in the introductions that you came to the U.S. from Honduras as an unaccompanied minor by yourself at the age of 14. Could you tell us a bit about that experience of leaving your country, coming here, and how you eventually ended up in Michigan?
Okay, so when I first, my decision for my trip wasn't like a plan or anything. It was just a very momentum thing. My situations on my household were getting worse because my stepdad was the main reason why I left here and I left my home country. When I moved to United States, uh, I came by train, truck, bus, and walking, running through Guatemala and Mexico. I think that the roughest part of my trip was when I enter the north part of Mexico, Monterrey, and those areas right there, where you're actually touching more desert and more nothing at all. If I can put it that way, getting into towns and people you don't know, and you're just trusting that they will help you, but do they really will? My highlight for my trip was when I left the city of Mexico DF or Distrito Federal. They made me ride a truck, a 16-wheel truck with another 80 and plus people inside of it. Um, because I was a teenager, children, whatever you want to call it, during that age. They made me ride on the front part of it. But I remember I did actually offer my spot to a pregnant woman that was coming, and I actually told that to the coyote, like, "Hey, can you switch the spots?" And he just basically bit my head, and he was like, "You go what I tell you to." We were inside that vehicle for plus 30 hours non-stopping, and it was hard because when I got to the other place in Monterrey, was more, you are here, don't ask questions. And I stood there for another week and so, and then I got moved inside of a bus where luggage goes inside that to Piedras Negras. And yeah, that was another 17 hours. We got there to a empty parking lot for a Home Depot, and they just tell us get out, and yeah, this guy just basically took us to the border of the river, the Rio Grande, and then he just basically told us you gotta cross the other side. And when I was crossing it, were also other people, and I was helping this lady who got a child who got seizures or some sort of those kind of illness, and he started having one in the middle of the river, and I did actually help him to cross, and his mom. So when I got to the other side of the river, the migration homeland security thought that I was the coyote because I was doing that help, but it was doing that or letting them drown on the river because the mom didn't know how to swim. And yeah, so inside the US was another big story. Uh, I got resettlement in a lot of places. They sent me to Houston. I live in Galveston, Texas. Finally, I make my final destination where I call home now, Michigan. I live thanks to Samaritas. They support me a lot. I've been living in this house that they built that it was like a family center type of thing, but because I was too old to be on the foster care system, they created this house where a bunch of other guys like me were living at, and we have the experience of having a mom and dad. When I turned 18 years old, they were more you had to leave the house because of UHL. So because of the friends of the high school where I was going to, this family decided to basically adopt me. They were like, "Well, you're a child now. We have an extra room if you want to rent it." And I moved with them, and then up like they didn't want me to pay the rent or anything. They were like, "Oh no, you're family now." So I can say that I did get something very valuable. That is people that I can trust and turn to if I ever need something.
And Edwin, you started that journey at age 14. How long was it before you got to what you consider home in Michigan? How old were you when you got here?
I will say that I was early 16, 17-ish years old. Um, I started going to my high school, and the high school at first they put me on the sophomore freshman year, but I was a little old to be during that at that grade, and I just basically talked to a lot of the director and everything. Like, is there a way that I can bump my grades up or do something? And they kind of helped me out, and I got the possibility to graduate a little quicker from Charlotte high schools, and yeah.
Edwin, when you were describing your story and your arrival in Michigan, I thought it was really touching when you were talking about um, getting together with a family that says you can be part of this program and rent a room from us, and then saying, forget the rent, you're part of our family. I mean, could you describe a little bit more about what it meant to have people helping along the way, and what it meant to make that connection with people when you started to settle down here in Michigan?
It meant the world for me because when I was aging out of the house where I was living at, they were going to place me from another whole different town, and I was actually very involved in my high school. I was doing a lot of community service. I was doing a lot of band practices and other things, and so being told that I was going to move, I was my whole work came down, and so because of this friend that I have in high school, she is my sister. I call her my sister now. I told her, hey, listen, don't get very used to me because I'm living in like about a week. And she was like, no, you're not. And I was like, well, sadly, yes, because this and this. And I explained the things that was going to happen. And she was like, what about if you come for dinner? And so I went to her house, made her beautiful family, and then they were interesting to know my story. So open my heart, tell it to them, and they were like, but then you're leaving us? You're going to Lansing? Yes, I will have to move there. And they were like, well, Mako, do you still have in that room where you storage everything? Yeah. What if we clean it? And I was like, oh my God, are you actually renting me a room? Oh yeah, definitely. And within like a month after that, I was my that happened all that happened in April. So during May on my birthday, they basically my gift was like, oh, we have a room for you. So I moved with them, and it was funny because my English wasn't good as how it is now. So in the house where I used to live, we have a lot of translators. So I was relying on them 24/7. So having that experience of being fully time English speaker, people around me helped me a lot to understand the language. So with I'll call her Stephanie. She introduced me to a lot of books, a lot of writers, and I do love reading. And one time I was on her bookshelf and I saw Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which is my favorite writer in Spanish, but she owned the entire collection in English. So I was like, we need to see it. We need to talk about this. And that's how I learned my English.
Huh.
It's funny because I learned it from a Spanish composer that it was translated to English, but it's just an amused
Huh.
part. And yeah, she then introduced me her entire family. I all her family is my family now. I have fully contact with them 24/7, basically anything. They uh yeah, I could not see my life without them because she helped me even in they helped me in the most even smallest parts now. Like any question, anything regarding anything, I can turn to someone who's I don't want to use the word older, but it's more knowledgeable on things that I can turn to so they can help me to navigate this world. And being in the United States for a foreign country that is a third world country to a first world country is a really big shocking point. Like when I first moved with them, it was also funny because they went for a vacation and they left me home because they reserved the tickets like 3 4 months ago and they didn't actually plan that I was moving with them. So they left me home. They gave me some money and they told me, you go to the store, buy things, and you survive. I was okay. Went to Subway with hand speaking everything. I ordered my sub and it got burned and everything. And so that day I realized you need to speak English because you got to learn and you got to be in a position where you can actually talk for yourself. You will not be relying anymore with translators. And that's how everything started and my purpose to grow in this country.
Are you able to keep in touch with anyone in Honduras?
Yeah, I do actually have communication with my mother. She is the pillar too. She is the one that I talk to. By the way, she was also coming with me when I was coming to the United States. Sadly, she's a little bit older, and so when we were in Tuxtla Gutierrez, Mexico, Chiapas, she migration got into the Marine, some sort of like uh, police got into the bus and they were checking for documentation. And me and other three people just jumped off the bus and we ran by ourselves. So that was another part of the story where I basically was coming with my mother, but like at the very beginning of the trip, I have to keep going on by myself.
I want to give the last word to you, and I don't want to tie you up with the negative. I guess I'd just like you to leave us with what you would like people to know about people who are in your situation or something similar who have arrived here in the U.S. What would you like to tell other people here in the States about that?
Something, the person that I have been seeing, I'm coming from Charlotte, that is a very white population town, is that a lot of the people are they haven't had never experienced or have ever see a person who came in this type of a status, which I am, and a lot of the people just act with, I want to say fear, because they don't know, and that's the first reaction as humans we have in these kind of uncertainties and things that we don't know. A lot of the people when I was in Charlotte, they were friendly, but a lot of them were more like, "Who are you?" And for them, I stood with them. Like I was the mentor for their Spanish class. So often they would be coming with me questions and like, oh, but I heard this, like the questions, the things that they were answering before me, like, oh, but I heard that they just come here and rely on the public system. No. Oh, but I heard it. No, but no. And that's some of the things that I personally, being a part of the Refugee Congress, I want to implement in these states, that education, the regular population, because they sometimes they don't know. And I would like to be a part of the micro level to educate them and tell them that there is more than what they just hear or they want to believe. There's another story. There's another stories, another parts of that thing. And that's what I want to be part of. And that's some of the parts that makes me stand here and share my story to who many people is listening right now, that we are here not because we choose to, we are here because we have to. That in my situation, as I said before, they didn't have a way around, but I'm here and I can say gladly that I call Michigan my home, and I can call people that I were totally strangers family. And that's some of the wonders that I admire about life. And that's what makes me stand where I am today. And thanks to all these people like you and everybody else here who basically stands and cheers up for these amazing type of movements.
Well, Edwin, thank you so much for sharing your story with all of us today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sulma, and I am 22 years old. I am from Honduras. I decided to came here because I was living with my grandmother. She was a bad person. And first, I passed through Guatemala and then through Mexico. My terrible experience was on Reynosa, Mexico, because someone kidnapped me, and that person closed me in a room. There was a lot of trash there, and it was so horrible. I was too little and I was so scared, just thinking, what is going to happen with me? Who is going to help me?
One thing that struck me working with these youth is that when I hear about the dangers of their journeys that many of our youth have taken here, kidnapping is not that abnormal. And what's striking to me is many of the youth who come to the United States will take that journey and face those dangers, not once, but again and again, and as many times as it takes. And I think that speaks very deeply to the realities of the danger and the difficulty of the homes that they are leaving. All of the art pieces here were created by refugee youth and unaccompanied children in Samaritas' refugee foster care program. We have been collecting these pieces since 2015. So every year, as part of World Refugee Awareness Week, Samaritas creates an exhibit to give the community an opportunity to learn about the youth that we serve and that we have the privilege of working with in a whole new way.
Samaritas accept me and they will send me to Michigan. And I was so happy. I don't care if this Michigan was cold because I was so happy, and I said, oh, thank you God for giving me that chance. They sent me to high school. They helped me to meet with other children. They helped me to get an attorney for my immigration course. I was so thankful for that.
There are children waiting overseas in refugee camps who are only waiting for a foster family for the opportunity to come here. They don't have a family of their own. So even if they're approved for resettlement in the United States, they don't have anywhere they can go. And so they're essentially blocked. So every family who opens up their heart and their home gives a child overseas waiting in an ORR shelter here in the US the opportunity to come here and pursue the safe and bright future that should be every child's right.